Hello, looks like we are finally live, I think. Looks like audio's working, looks like video's working. Hopefully that is the case. If you can hear me, if you're out there, put a message in the comments box just to let me know, but I think we're good. Sorry for the delay. These little settings and things that I mess with for other functions end up messing me up when I try to come over here and do a live video. But thanks for bearing with us. And if you're not watching live, I hope you will watch either recorded on Facebook later or on YouTube. I'm Alex again, kind of acting on behalf of the Penn Yan Action Coalition as we continue our reading and discussion of The Line Becomes a River by Francisco Cantu. This is the second Facebook Live edition of our efforts to get this community read going and keep it going. I think it went pretty well last time, and we've had some folks watching and commenting on the video after it was live, and we'll see what happens this time. So just to bring you up to speed, we're kind of working our way through part 2 of the book. Our intrepid teacher, Claudia, created a series of questions and topics, sort of thematic ways of getting at the content of the book. The last time we looked at wolf imagery in the book, and today we will be talking about identity. And in keeping with some constructive criticism that I got from some of our fellow Penn Yan Action Coalition folks since the last one, I'm going to try to give a little bit of room in between content here, little snippets of the book and whatnot, to give you guys room to think and to comment if you want to, or just be thinking about what thoughts these things raise in your minds yourselves. And again, we're going to keep this live portion pretty brief. There's no reason to go on and on and on. And in my other broadcasts I've been doing for other functions, I have been going a little bit longer than I want to, so I'm going to try to break that habit. So we're talking about identity today. Claudia writes, the issue of identity comes up over and over in Cantu's book. Some examples follow. Quote on page 103 to 104, "Thank God for St. Francis," she said, "saving you from that terrible name." I nodded. "I'd be a different person." "That's right," she said. "A name is everything." Give you a second to think about that. All right, then on page 107, we have a line, "No one deserves to be just a number. The idea is to figure out who they are and give them their name back." And we're talking all about identity. Let you think about that for a moment. Something that occurs to me just sitting here and reading over Claudia's questions and things. The concepts of names really are powerful. A recurring motif in some of the most powerful fantasy literature that I read is the power of names. If you're familiar with Ursula K. Le Guin, a fantasy and science fiction author who passed away just in the past couple of years, her Earthsea novels are focused on a world where if you know something's name, you can control it and either banish it or bend it to your will. So I think that seeing those fantastical elements play out in a nonfiction setting really shows the power of names as a motif in real life as well as just in fantasy. So yes, no one deserves to be just a number. The idea is to figure out who they are and give them their name back. And then on page 115, Claudia has provided for us. I see Mickey has commented. Thank you, Mickey. The news media helps us keep the numbers of coronavirus from becoming just numbers by giving us stories about individuals. We can do that among ourselves. Very good point. Excellent. Great thought. Statistics have a way of bogging us down. And, with such great numbers, how can we possibly, shovel our way out of the despair that they inspire in us? And the same thing could be said of the numbers of border crossers or of people waiting to cross the border. So giving people actual identities is really important. On page 115, Claudia gives us this line: "What thing is the body when someone strips it of a name, a history, a family name?" What thing is the body when someone strips it of a name, a history, a family name? Sort of continuing off of what Mickey said, Claudia also gave us this line from page 110. "Most common metaphors used by journalists to describe migrant deaths," argues Otto Santa Anna, a sociolinguist at the University of California, "dehumanize migrants by representing them as an undifferentiated mass. Most common metaphors used by journalists to describe migrant deaths dehumanize migrants by representing them as an undifferentiated mass." And think about that. How can we relate to our fellow human beings if it's just, 27 here, 154 there? There are real people with real names behind these numbers. On page 138, Cantu writes, "An investigation into femicide cases in Argentina found that state authorities had failed to label remains, leading in some cases to the mixing together of the recovered body parts of distinct persons, literal amalgamation of individual victims into an undifferentiated mass." And going along with that, on pages 144 to 145, looks like Claudia provided Cantu's writing of another example that came immediately to my mind reading that last part. Historian Timothy Snyder, writing about the staggering number of deaths resulting from genocide during the World War II era, says that, quote, "To join in a large number after death is to be dissolved into a stream of anonymity. It is to sacrifice individuality and to be abandoned by history." He concluded by saying, "It is for us as humanists to turn the numbers back into people." That's powerful. And think of how sad it is and how true it is of so many eras of our history that there's so many billions of people who have lived and struggled and fought for something and been snuffed out anonymously, and we'll never know who any of them are. We've taken away what makes them human. Take a moment to think about those things. And it's interesting in that the first part there, the investigation into femicide cases, it's a specifically an issue affecting women more acutely than men. Mickey says this is why the Vietnam Wall is so powerful. The numbers are names. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the 9/11 memorial, same kind of idea. It's very abstract to think about what happened on 9/11. And then if you visit the memorial and you see every person listed who lost their lives that day, very powerful. We had some comments from some of our Penn Action Coalition members ahead of time here. Some folks weren't sure if they'd be able to join us live, and some who did anyway. So I've got some thoughts from Mickey. You just shared these with me not too long before we got started. So if I feel free to jump in if I'm not expressing this the way you would want to. But I thought this was interesting, and it's funny. I was just watching a stand-up comedy special that raised this question. You bring up stranger danger, and for those people of my generation and probably the parents of my generation, that means that's an instant your mind jumps to memories of having assemblies and PSAs, public service announcements, and after school specials about avoiding stranger danger. Don't talk to strangers. Be careful of everyone you meet, which there were good reasons for those kinds of things. But Mickey raises a great point in the thought that she shared with me ahead of the session today. She had a long held concern about stranger danger program ideas used for years to be sure that our children are safe, but in reality have taught a huge swath of young people to not interact with anyone they don't know. Walking on the street, they seldom look you in the eye and share a nod or a smile. Are they now always in fear when alone out in public? And I'm the kind of guy who always does want to share that smile and nod and just little moment of human interaction. And so increasingly, I have noticed the lack of any interest in a return of that. I lived in New York City for a couple of years, and I was always the weirdo smiling at you as you walked by me on the street. But it's true here in Penn Yan, too, and it's true in my hometown in Fredonia. And that's interesting to link it to the education we've gotten about stranger danger. And maybe, it's sort of a corollary to that criticism of the helicopter parent. Are we too cautious in our human interactions, and are we making walls between each other where they shouldn't be? And yesterday was the great Broadway lyricist and composer Stephen Sondheim's birthday. He's 90 years young and still kicking. And one of his most powerful songs is from the musical Into the Woods, called Children Will Listen, and all about the ways that the stories we tell, the tales we tell, the narratives we weave in our society itself, those don't fall on deaf ears. Those don't just, they don't just land with a thud. They ripple, and when the ripples touch young lives, those lives change, for good or for ill. And I think that's part of what Mickey's been getting at. Mickey also said our neighborhoods are no longer the strong links between families. Our cell phones both connect and isolate us. Does all this isolation create a low or high level of fear that is much closer to a tipping point, so that it takes little to change our behaviors from warm, kind, thoughtful to mean, aggressive, distrustful? And that seems particularly cogent at this moment where we are all being asked to stay behind our walls for our own safety. And we've seen really wonderful examples of people reaching out in safe ways. But I have personally wondered how things will be different even when this crisis of the coronavirus is all over. And I think that there's going to be some major differences. And I think that Mickey's observation about isolation leading perhaps to greater aggression is one of them that is possible. Maybe we'll see a swing back the other way. I'm not sure. But we shall see. While I was waxing rhapsodic there, I got another comment from Mickey, referring back to the rates of femicide in Argentina. She says, I think that the deaths of women and all immigrant individuals is lost in the sheer numbers. That's very true. We had another thought submitted ahead of time by Cindy. Actually, she had a couple of thoughts relating to this theme of identity. Here's something that I hadn't seen given much attention yet in the questions and things. Cindy notes, Cantu's mother plays a significant role in the book. I do not think he shares her name with us readers. I wonder why. And that gets back towards that question of names having power, and what kind of power did Cantu want to perhaps reserve by not sharing information like that. Cindy speculates, is she the universal mother? That's a good observation. That could very well be, by keeping back the specificity of who Cantu's mother is by giving us her name. Maybe she's meant to stand in for all of our mothers. If anyone has any thoughts on Cantu's mother, feel free to share those. Cindy adds about Cantu's mother are all of the questions and comments that she poses, questions that Francisco questions himself. So I guess, is he using his mother as the mouthpiece for his own internal concerns? And then connecting to the mother theme and also back to names, Cantu says that his mother named him for St. Francis. When someone is named after another person, are there expectations, sentimentality? How does that affect one's identity? All great questions, things for our fair readers to ponder. So again, Cindy's final observation and questions. Cantu says that his mother named him for St. Francis. When someone is named after another person, are there expectations, sentimentality? How does that affect one's identity? I got a few other comments ahead of time. One that I want to share also, because I think it connects back to conversation that we have had in the in-person sessions and sheds a little light on that, but is also something maybe we'll cover again at a later date. Nancy shared her observation about her overall impression of part two. She says, I think overall part two of the book is Cantu trying to come to some acceptance of what he experienced while working with Border Patrol. He is dealing with everything as best he can. If he does not manage to do so, he feels it may consume him. That's why he dreams, why he relives his experiences, and why he is so fearful he will not find peace within himself. And so there were a lot of questions about the sharing of his dreams when we met in person a couple of times a few weeks ago. And that seems like a good analysis of why Cantu chose to share his dreams. And I think that's true. Dreams are a way that we have of working through the things that we can't work through consciously. And that's true. Fear plays a big role in that. Fear is one of the themes that we'll discuss later in the week. So maybe we will return to that idea, but that is certainly a good place to leave it, I think. So I see I've been going on for almost 20 minutes. So again, I can't seem to keep myself to a reasonable number here, but we had some good comments from Mickey, and hopefully some other folks either are watching and are thinking about this stuff, or you will watch later. Again, I will make this video available for those folks who do not have Facebook on YouTube. So if you know people who would like to be a part of the conversation who are not on Facebook, we will get the link to the YouTube video out to you as soon as we can, and you can direct them there. I know that doesn't work for folks who are just not online at all, and I'm sorry about that. I wish there was an obvious way to loop folks like that in with our discussions. If you come up with anything along those lines, please let us know. But I'm going to close off the live portion now with a big thank you to everyone watching and everyone helping. Again, the members of the Penny in Action Coalition who helped put this together. And the video will remain for you all to watch and comment on even after I go off the air here. So thank you again. Hope you're all staying safe. Hope that the snow was not too much of a shock to anyone's system today. And looking forward to seeing what other comments we get. All right. All right. Good night, everybody.